Hello, and thank you for joining this webinar, part one of a three-part series. Part two and three will be available on the website very soon, where I'll be covering the assessment process and what a successful interview looks like. For an application overview, including which documents are required and application guidance, please get comfortable and take notes for approximately the next 20 to 30 minutes. These slides will also be available for circulation on the member portal or via email for our non-members after all three parts have been published. So what exactly is professional membership? Professional membership status is awarded when someone joins a professional body. Now, what do we mean by a professional body? Well, it's an organisation made up of individual members, people who are linked by a specific profession, interest, or occupation. In other words, joining a professional body connects you with others in your field and formally recognises you as part of that professional community. Now on screen are a list of our member benefits, which you will have access as a member already or a prospective member. I'm just going to run through a couple, as obviously there's quite a few on the screen. So starting with events and networking, this benefit to many people is one of the most important aspects of professional membership. It provides you with the opportunity to meet like-minded professional peers. Our digital library services enable you access to a wide variety of TWI published material, some of it up to 100 years old. It is home to all of TWI's published technical information, exclusive to our members only. Next, we have our Welding and Joining Journal, which is published quarterly, approximately 4 times per year. The Welding and Joining Matters Journal is an easy read available to all of our Institute members, and it covers all aspects of welding, joining, and fabrication alike. Next, here at the Welding Institute, our members are not just told to engage and record CPD, we actively encourage our members. We have a wide variety of volunteer roles available for members at any stage in their career, which is then in turn contributing towards their CPD requirements. So what are the benefits of professional membership? Well, first of all, it is recognised all around the world as a sign that you're serious about your career and committed to the industry for the long term. It's a great way to open doors because through your membership, you'll get access to very valuable networking opportunities that you probably wouldn't normally come across. These come through professional engineering institutions, also known as PEIs, and can connect you with people working in your specific field. And on top of that, being a member can help you build new contacts, develop new skills, and even lead to potential engineering work. So it's not just about the title, it's about the opportunities and growth that come with it. So our role is really simple. We're here to support your professional needs and interests of the wider engineering community. At the end of the day, our main goal is to help you move forward in your career. We do that by offering benefits that are specific to engineering and directly connected to the industry. On screen now, we've got our member grades. So first off, you have your AWOLD-I. Now this is for anyone interested, keyword being interested in welding and joining. It doesn't have to be your career. It can be your hobby, your interest outside of work. So that is open to anybody. Next, we have our TechWeld-I. So this is for technicians with knowledge and experience of welding. Next, MWeld-I. Now this is our members. It's hard to get across that obviously everyone is our members, but we also have a member grade. So our member grade, which is MWeld-I, that's for those with 2 years experience in welding and joining and working in a role that meets the specific requirements. Next, we have our fellow. Now, this is rightly reserved for our esteemed professionals with substantial experience in welding, joining, or related technologies. Our fellows often have all contributed massively to the industry, and personally via volunteering roles usually. Just on that right-hand side of this table, so the technician usually aligns with EngTech, and the technician will apply proven techniques and procedures to solve practical engineering problems. MWeld-I will align with the incorporated engineer who maintains and manages applications of current and developing technology and may undertake engineering, design, development, manufacture, construction, operation. And the chartered engineer CEng, which aligns with Emerald I2, will develop solutions to engineering problems using new or existing technologies through innovation, creativity, and change. So now let's talk through the process of applying for professional membership. First off, you have the application stage. Now, the professional membership team, known as PAG within the company, will review the applicant's submission. We look at, as PAG, work experience, qualifications, if any, and provide guidance on the necessary documents. Once the applicant has completed everything, they return their application to the PAG team for the first stage of review, usually done via email. Now, next comes the virtual panel stage. At this point, applications are presented to a panel of qualified and competent assessors. These are volunteers who generously give their time. The panel discuss the application and agree on the next recommended step for the applicant. There are usually 3 possible outcomes: an invitation to interview, which is required for all iEng and CEng, a request to strengthen the application, or the award of professional membership. It is also important to note that rejection is also an option, but it's very rare at this stage of application. Now let's look at the professional review interview, also known as PRI. All applicants for iEng or CEng, as well as individual route members and EngTech applicants, are invited to attend the PRI. The purpose of this interview is to give applicants the opportunity to demonstrate the knowledge and the experience that they themselves outlined during their application appendix. So that's your 1, 2, or 3. These interviews can vary in length, but typically last anywhere from 1 to 2.5 hours. Following a successful PRI comes the award stage. At this point, the applicant is formally awarded professional membership. If it applies, their details are also uploaded to the Engineering Council register. And finally, the Institute sends out a certificate to officially mark their achievement. So let's take it back to the first step: CV evaluation and membership recommendation. Once we review your CV, we take the time to recommend the membership level that's best fit for you. When we look at your CV, we mainly focus on 3 things: how long you've worked in the profession, your educational background, and your professional experience. Now, it's worth pointing out we can only make a recommendation. It's up to you, the applicant, to show your qualifications and experience clearly in your documents, and also in the professional review interview if that is applicable to your application level. Every application is different, so we look at each one individually and make our recommendations on a case-by-case basis. When applying for membership, there are various different routes and for the same outcome. So one of these routes is our learning outcomes route, often called the LOR, mainly called the LOR, to be honest with you, because learning outcomes route is a bit of a mouthful. So this route is designed for individuals who want to register with the Engineering Council, but don't hold the usual recognised academic qualifications. The application process looks at 2 things: academic eligibility and competency. Through the LOR, applicants with sufficient experience at the right level can demonstrate that they have the same knowledge and understanding as someone who has followed the recognised academic pathway for their registration grade, i.e. a bachelor or a master's degree. Now let's look at eligibility for the LOR route, the learning outcomes route, or the LOR. Eligibility for the LOR is based on work experience, pretty much just on work experience. So for iEng applicants, they need to show that they've been working in a role at iEng level for at least 4 years, demonstrating the UK spec competencies. For CEng, the requirement is at least 6 years in a role at CEng level, again, meeting those same UK spec standards. The LOR process as a standard, a typical LOR process, shall we say. I'm going to touch on the first half of this flowchart because from invitation to PRI, most applicants follow the standard route as those applicants who are not following the LOR process, if that makes sense. So the LOR process, I like to think of it as a little right turn, and then you join everyone else how they go through the process. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So the first stage in the LOR application process is submitting an initial application to be reviewed by the Membership, Education and Registration Committee, known as MERC. The initial review is an assessment against the Engineering Council UK spec competencies for the registration grades sought, Appendix 1 or 2. When accepted onto the LOR, the membership team will send you a confirmation email outlining the next steps and confirm the necessary documentation that needs to be completed as outlined in the next section of this guidance document. Submission of the LOR is to include the mapping form and supporting documentation, along with up-to-date CPD and your CV. The assessors will also be provided a copy of relevant documentation, and your CV and CPD will demonstrate to the assessors your employment history and how you have developed throughout your career. Your submission will then be assessed by 2 volunteer assessors trained to conduct learning outcomes route assessments, who will recommend the next stage. So you've got your application, invitation to LOR, assessment of the LOR, invitation to PRI, and from there you will follow the standard pathway, which will be touched on further in this series. Now on screen here we have our learning outcomes route outcomes, so the LOR outcomes. So outcome 1, you've got your professional review interview. This typically lasts between 60 and 90 minutes, assessing against the criteria in the UK spec. Next, you have your extended PRI, again assessing against the criteria in the UK spec, but this one will last approximately 90 to 120 minutes. It may have been that there were some minor gaps identified in your LOR submission, and this is your opportunity and extra time to identify those gaps and, meet the requirements. Next, we have a technical review interview. So this may be required to delve further into noticeable gaps in your LOR submission, but instead of requesting a submission, it's felt that some additional time and, additional opportunity at an interview could allow you to explore and demonstrate any of the gaps identified. Slightly undesirable ones now. So we've got the resubmission. If you're asked to resubmit, you will be informed which of the learning outcomes were considered to fall considerably short of the requirements. And next you have rejection. Now, should the assessors recommend to reject your LOR submission, the recommendation will be deferred to our MERT committee to consider and ratify their decision. If that recommendation is upheld, then you will be advised of regarding different further learning outcomes options in order to address the learning outcomes required for the registration grade sought. Bit of a mouthful, but I'd always like to say with rejections, and it's kind of our motto here at the Weldon Institute, it's not a no forever, it's a no for now. So we're always there to support you when the time is right again in the future. Another pathway available is the matrix route. So this is another individual route. So you've got your learning outcomes route and your matrix route. This option is designed for individuals who have a mix of relevant qualifications along with significant professional experience at the right level for IEng and CEng registration. Typically, applicants who don't hold the standard academic qualifications but have been working at the required level for around 4 or 5 years are encouraged to consider this route. In these cases, candidates apply for MWelDI and IEng or CEng registration through the matrix. As part of the process, they must submit a technical report in addition to the usual supporting documents. A good example of the matrix route is someone who holds a UK or equivalent bachelor degree and has also completed the International Weldon Diploma. Usually, these applicants are able to cover the remaining 30 CATS credits in a technical report. On screen here, we've got the matrix example, so I'll leave those up for you to read. Just to clarify, your level 5 qualification could be your HND or foundation degree. On screen here, I've got a checklist for each type of application. As mentioned, these slides are going to be available for use after, but I think this is a good visual to kind of differentiate what is required per different level of application. Coming on to the smaller parts of application, and we're looking at utilising the application form. So let's move on to what we are expecting for the submission as a whole. Please utilise the application form to the best of your ability. It has been created with applicants in mind. By this, I encourage you to make use of the checklist and read in detail about the role of your sponsors. Also pay extra attention to detail, especially when inputting your email address or phone number. That can make things very tricky. One mistake often made is applicants forgetting to tick the privacy box on page 3 of the application form. Without this, we are unable to process any information you have submitted. So it's very important, just to cut off any minor delays. So when we look at your CV, there are a few key areas we focus on. First is your employment history. Now, this includes job titles, periods of employment, and most importantly, a clear outline of your roles and responsibilities in each position. I am just going to go over that again. So job titles. We need to know exactly what that job title is, the periods of employment, so that's your start and your end date, and importantly is a clear outline of your roles and responsibilities for each position. Now, if you're looking at, an employment history of 30 years, at least the last 6 years, we want detailed roles and responsibilities in each position. I hope I've made that clear. Then your educational background. Here we look at the dates of enrolment and completion, the name of the institution and the country that institution is based, and the qualifications you have achieved. So, full name of that qualification. It's really helpful if we don't have to go back and forth asking for that information. Next, we have the appendices. So the appendix must be submitted for anyone applying to the Engineering Council. The evidence provided must follow a structured evidence-based format. It should be written in the first person, focusing solely on your own experience. And you should avoid using the terms we or us. Now, just to clarify, Appendix 1 is for CEng applicants, 2 for IEng applicants, 3 for EngTech applicants. But we will be exploring the appendices in greater detail during session 2. On screen here, I've just put some information about our new service that we are offering both members and non-members, and this is our CV clinic. The title of this is Membership Matters because it's a new campaign, and membership matters to everyone within this profession and industry. So Membership Matters CV clinics is what we call them. It's the ideal starting point if you're unsure where to begin. You can learn firsthand how membership level recommendations are made. They're hosted monthly, usually the second Tuesday of every month. More details can be found on our events page online and our social channels for further details. On screen here, you'll see the CPD form that has been designed specifically for our members here at the Weldon Institute. If you'd like our own copy, you can simply request it from the membership officer who is handling your application. Now, looking at this page in the form, you'll notice that it highlights examples of activities as well as a guide to the Weldon Institute CPD credit system. This system outlines how many points per hour you can realistically record for different types of activities. Of course, a common sense approach should always be applied. So if you've completed an activity that wasn't specifically listed, you should use your own judgment when recording it and seeing what category it may fall into or under. Finally, on the final page of CPD, you should look to include a summary or evaluation of your CPD for the next 1 to 2 years as evidenced here. The evaluation looks at the individual reflection notes from your activities and how have the CPD activities so far met the objectives. Are there any changes you could consider to your objectives moving forward? And then the final part of the CPD plan is your development plan with a focus reflecting on the previous CPD activities. What areas of development plans for the next 1 to 2 years are, relevant to maintain your professional competence and reach your goals. Now, just to round up this whole first part of the webinar, we also require various supporting documents, which I'll quickly run through now. We have the organogram, which is a simple chart showing where you sit within your organisation. These can be created by yourself, in Word, or they can be your company formal organogram that you get off of the company site. If you are creating these yourself, absolutely no issue, but we are relying on the chosen sponsors to verify any information provided and therefore verify your position in the company. We also require photo ID, usually driver's license or passport works best and is most accessible to all. And last but not least, certificates and transcripts, official copies only, please. We do accept these to be scanned over to us, but a good quality image is very highly appreciated. I wouldn't be sending the original copies in the post to us, things happen, can get lost in transit. Last but not least, if you are planning to go via the academic route, but you are unable to find your transcripts, you'll need to get replacements before moving forward with any application. What happens next? So finally, once we've received all of your required documents, your application will be sent to the virtual panel for peer review. The panel will take a close look and make a recommendation based on the details of your application. One important note, referring to payment, full payment will need to be received by ourselves before we submit anything to the panel. So please be sure and be prepared to take care of that to avoid any delays. So that's all from me for part one. Thanks for joining. Please send any follow-up queries to the email address on screen, which is weldinginstitute@twi.co.uk. And that's me, Ellie, your membership officer.